can run the gamut from things that are just flat out not true to things that are just nonsensical. They're just like, they are nonsensical. And then on top of that, they betray nominees who are just utterly unqualified. I mean, one of the things you walked away from Pete Hegseth's nomination believing, no matter what else you think about Pete Hegseth, is this man is not qualified to be the Secretary of Defense. Like, he does not understand the role of the Pentagon. He does not understand the role of the Secretary of Defense. But this is what a political party looks like when it has completely capitulated itself to Donald Trump, and where it has no interest in playing a meaningful part of the process, but yet runs the process.
It really goes to show that what Trump is looking for is not somebody who's qualified. I mean, on its face, you would think that he would have a vested interest in putting forward people who are qualified because, look, these are his nominees. Like, you would think he would want good people staffing these positions because they reflect onto him. But at the end of the day, it's not about qualifications or competence. What he's looking for in these nominees is just pliability. He's looking for somebody who is compliant to him. And so he sees that in Pete Hegseth, who has no idea how the military works, who has no idea how the government works, and who's never run an agency or any organization that's had more than like a couple dozen people in it. But none of that matters because that's not what Trump is looking for. Trump is looking for somebody who is just going to bend the knee and show fealty to him. And so that changes the entire incentive structure in terms of these nominees, what they're looking for. And in a normal world, you would have these senators who would want to zealously guard their autonomy as a co-equal branch of government. And yet here, to your exact point, everybody has the same incentive, which is just not pissing off Donald Trump, is just showing more fealty to the God King. And so he puts people who are going to be pliable to him in front of people in the Senate who are already compliant to him. And what you're left with is just folks who are aggressively, dangerously unqualified for their positions, who are going in for no reason other than they'll just listen to whatever Donald Trump tells them to do and do it.
Yeah, that's right. And so, when at one point during the questioning of RFK during the hearings, one of the Democratic senators were saying, so basically you are just a rubber stamp for whatever
Correct.
The White House says. And he didn't actually disagree with it. Like, he was not like, I am my own man. I have my own views. He was like, the White House says this, the White House says that, the White House, if the White House, and like, that's just the game. And that's what everyone on the Republican side thinks. And to emphasize one aspect of your point about giving up their constitutional right and role, the senators used to jealously guard the advise and consent role as like their central superpower. The whole thing we've always talked about like blue slips for judges and all of that, right, was all about senatorial prerogative. The idea that senators have a unique power to approve or not approve nominees. And that they jealously guard that against the executive branch, even if it is someone of their own party. That is just like their sacrosanct currency. Meanwhile, in the House, their sacrosanct currency is the power of the purse, right? We appropriate funds.
And yet, ironically...
And yet here we are with the Republicans in the House watching as Donald Trump is basically saying, I get to decide whether to spend money or not and reprogram money. And there's not a single House Republican standing up against it.
Forget standing up there. The chair of the Appropriations Committee came forward and says he does have the legal prerogative to be able to do that.
Yeah. I mean, they have completely decided that Donald Trump is in charge of all of the government. And they will do whatever he says. And the thing that makes this, in some ways, hard to combat, but it is the place where the legacy media has become complicit, frankly, is that because it's out in the open, because they say it, because the chairman of the Appropriations Committee says it, the legacy media is complicit. So, for example, they will say, the number of times the legacy media will say, well, this is what Donald Trump campaigned on, as if somehow that makes it okay that he's doing something unconstitutional, is remarkable. Or they'll cite the Republican head of the Appropriations Committee and they'll act like, well, therefore the Constitution doesn't apply. They themselves have decided that because it's out in the open, it must be okay. And so I feel like sometimes I'm in a bizarro world. I'm watching the Republicans on the Hill say things like, that give up their power. I'm watching, as you say, the nominees lie, and and then watching the legacy media be like, well, they're all, this is what they're all saying. And you're like, well, but isn't your job, Mr. Reporter? Isn't your job to not just be a stenographer of this,
right,
but to actually call it out? And they don't seem to think that's their job.
Well, Mark, I think there's one more group at play here, and that's the Democrats. And I think the Democrats, in an effort to try and convey some goodwill and give the optics of kind of the normalization of government, in an effort to try to manifest normal government, a lot of them are voting for these Trump nominees. For example, 24 Democrats voted for Trump's transportation secretary, Sean Duffy, and his first act as DOT secretary was to eliminate Biden's fuel economy standards. And so there is a sense that by virtue of trying to act normal or usher in an era of normalcy, that in fact they're rendering themselves complicit by enabling some of these aggressively unqualified nominees from passing.
Yeah. So look, I have two reactions. The first is I wouldn't vote for any Republican person, any of these nominees. So that's what I would do if I were a senator, but I'm not a senator. That said, I wrote a piece for Democracy Docket about 10 things that we can all do to protect democracy. And one of those I'm going to cite back to you now, which is that we cannot make this about the Democrats. I mean, the fact is the Republicans control the entire government. And so, honestly, it doesn't matter whether one Democrat votes for it, no Democrats vote for a 24, if what we are doing by that is taking the spotlight off of the Republicans who are voting for all of these folks. And so the fact is that this is fundamentally about a Republican Party that has ceded power to Donald Trump. And you just can't blame the Democrats. I mean, the Democrats don't have the power to do anything about it, right, so they can't be blamed. Do I wish they would more likely go on your show than on, Meet the Press? Yes. And that's something that I am critical of, because that would make a difference. But on who they vote for or don't vote for, unless it's a deciding vote, I just don't think it matters.
Yeah, it's a fair point. And I think that also your point of what we can do moving forward to actually elicit some type of change is especially important. So I'm going to put the link to that Democracy Docket article in the post description of this video. And more broadly, for folks who are watching right now, if you're not yet signed up for Democracy Docket, it is an invaluable resource that I use on a daily basis, and especially important right now as we kind of enter this post-truth era where we are seeing a lot of these folks lie with impunity, and it's coming right from the top of the White House. So never a more important time to sign up for Democracy Docket. I'll put the link right here on the screen and also in the post description of this video. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
I'm Mark Elias.
This is Democracy Watch.